Hello, everybody. How we doing this morning? See some heads nodding. How we doing? You guys ready? The first session of the conference. Delighted to be here, be back here at Learning Technologies. I'm Ron Edwards. I lead virtual learning for QA, and I'm here today to talk about beyond the blend, talking more deeply and thoroughly about the types of learning that we can offer across the spectrum of both modalities and instructional strategies. Let's start talking a little bit about what we mean by blended learning. Blended learning isn't exactly new, is it? It's been just called that, named that, in about early 2000s. But we look back, what was blended learning? We didn't call it then, but what was it? When I was doing science, training scientists and engineers, pre-learning was the pre-reading before you came on a workshop, right? And when I became head of sales training there in the States, it became the stuff that you did on the plane on the way to the training was pre-learning. But that was blended, wasn't it? But I could see that the opportunity was, with different kinds of learning outcome requirements, to use multimedia as part of that mix instead of just reading PDFs or whatever handouts at the time. So what we did was build a multimedia videos and interactive exercises, even used some gameplay. This back in 1997, laid a foundation across the sales force, and then built on that with workshops. But it wasn't called blended learning back then either. Blended learning started to come into place, I think, as a nickname for what started to transpire in about 2001. When I moved over here, if you're wondering about the accent, I moved over here to the UK in 2001. And to be the global head of e-learning, and at that time, we were moving from CD-ROM based training, as the industry was, to web-based learning. The internet was finally taking off, and what was really the buzz back then, it was LMS. Everybody had to have a browser-based LMS, right? So people bought an LMS. I didn't, but a lot of people did. And then what did they do as soon as they bought it? Well, we need some content to track with our beautiful LMS. So they bought massive catalogs of e-learning. And what happens when you buy a massive catalog of e-learning? What's your utilization usually? It could be fairly low, right? So what happened? What started to happen? Well, people started trying to use some of that e-learning before some of the management training workshops or whatever the skills were, trying to get people to start using some of the e-learning. It was a good strategy because at least it would expose people to learning in new ways. But it really wasn't joined up. And in my practices, of trying to do that, it was largely ignored. We tried to use it as follow-up learning, but if it wasn't tightly integrated with the live training, it just didn't really work. And it's about the time we started hearing this term called blended learning. Well, you've seen the agenda, many of you, and some of you, of course, are drive-bys and haven't. These are the things that I want to talk about. So blended learning isn't just the stuff you do before you come to a workshop. It means a lot more than that. And what's really hot right now, of course, is this thing about employee engagement and making learning engaging. And as you take a tour around here, I'll be surprised if you don't find the word engagement or engaging mentioned on at least, well, a lot of the stands. But it's important, and there's an opportunity to move forward from the more linear type of, more boring type of page-turning e-learning and approaches, I think. I think that people can think more deeply before they come on a course. And it's not engagement is not the amount of mouse clicks that you do or the amount of drag and drop that you do. Interactivity is with the mind. And so just simple creative writing, forget the media for a minute, can get people to think more creatively or more deeply before they come on a course so that they're better prepared. Using multimedia in the classroom is another great way of engaging people, whether it's a virtual classroom or in the physical classroom. And so I'll show you some examples. By the way, I'm going to show you a ton of examples across the spectrum. And what else can you do to increase the mix of modalities and reach people no matter where they are, but connect people into your physical classrooms? So we call that extended classroom, others call that connected classroom. Why not capture what happens in the classroom and make it available to people either before or afterwards? There's some work I was pioneering at Unilever in about 2002 that helped shorten the overall leadership development and other kinds of functional skill area timelines because that basic understanding could be shifted to video before they came. Finally, performance support is critical, and it's a methodology, mentality, as well as some underlying infrastructure that I think you need to have there for that after the training to make sure that it sticks. And then finally, what helps transfer learning to the job? some kinds of things that we're doing are around sending out summary emails with the key learning points and so forth. So I'll touch on that. So these are the kinds of things that I want to talk about today. Is this in sync with what you want to hear about? If I saw this, I'm not sure what I was going to do, but thanks for saying yeah. So why is this important? I don't expect that you guys can read that, but we're ambassadors of the Towards Maturity program, and so we see a lot of research that they do. And I highlighted the word engagement because I was using this in another context of why you need to make e-learning itself engaging. A lot of e-learning these days is used for compliance. Who uses or wants to use e-learning for compliance training? So a few people. And the challenge there is people say that it's not engaging, it's not creating the behavior change. A lot of times it's a tick box exercise, isn't it? We got to make sure everybody's had exposure to this type of training, and so they've done it, and we're happy with that. But now organizations are saying we actually want behavioral change, which is mentioned in here. And only the organizations that are more advanced in how they're using different technologies are getting that kind of result. And that's what this statement's all about. And the mature organizations that said are engaging staff using a wide range of learning and performance support technologies. So that's what it's about. Learning has to be engaging, and it's not just before you come onto a workshop or instead of a workshop. Across the portfolio needs to be engaging, and that's what I'm here to talk about today. Just a tiny bit about QA, our context, for those of you that don't know us. We're a large training company based here in the UK, might not have guessed by the accent, and we have 25 centers up and down the coast. We do about 500,000 delegate days of training a year, so a lot of classroom training across the portfolio of project management, IT, leadership development. My expertise is in this pink box here, and that's on delivery methods, whether it's virtual learning, e-learning, or this evil combination of the two that I'm here to talk about. And other services that we have are either at a bespoke e-learning, bespoke course, or a whole program level is what we do, as well as managed learning services. Anybody speaking on these stands has a stand, and we do too. It's right back there where you can come and learn more about this stuff. So I mentioned we're doing this at scale. We're doing blended learning at scale too. So one example of this example is ITIL Foundation, Service Management. It's an IT qualification. If you come on one of our courses, and thousands of people do, you're going to get a lot of different bits. You get access, free access to our mobile app. All of you can download this for your ITIL viewing pleasure now. But it has a couple different features in it that really resonate, I think. It has a bit of video from one of our leading experts that tell you about why you want to come on this course, why it's important, what you're going to learn. So it kind of lays that stage. If you want to start prepping for the exam, it has a test engine, and it also has a glossary that you can use after the class. So it's a valuable tool. If you come onto one of our courses, whether it's e-learning or virtual, you get a full e-learning package on top of that. And so that adds value and context. You could take it virtually, as I mentioned. I'll come on to that in a while. And we also have now, you get a video of the course before you even come on it. So you get to see what happens. You could revise during the course. And sometimes there's an exam, so you'd want to have that. And then we give it to you 4 weeks after the course to help reinforce the learning. And in the course itself may have case studies, and I'll come on to that. So let me show you a quick example of that. This is not where the link is, I guess. Okay, imagine a really great video of this really dynamic instructor in a classroom going like this. And it's all synced up with slides. We might come back to that. And come see it on our stand. Then the other thing that we have are key learning points. And these are messages sent out during the course to refresh what you learned during the day. Here's an example of what it looks like. Hard to read, but just a nice succinct message of reinforcing points that then again help you apply it on the job afterwards. Not as exciting as my full motion video, but effective nonetheless. And so why are we doing this? Well, look at the quote on the bottom first. A remarkable 98% of people that come on our course say it'll improve their performance. I've always been about performance. What is it that we can do that helps people perform better on the job? May or may not be training, might be performance support, might be just giving them the information at their fingertips that they need. But when it comes to training delivery, we want people to be able to apply what they learn onto the job, and 98% say it's going to help their performance. That's why we do this, and we apply it on projects for clients as well as what we're doing publicly. We measure our quality with the NPI index, Net Promoter Index, And we're really proud that our score is higher than the Jesus phone, the Apple Mobile. More people would recommend this course than a Apple Mobile. And I find that amazing. And our virtual has to lead up to that too. So that's enough about QA. Let's talk about content and different types of technology. One of the ways to do this is to frame this up. I could just talk about technology all day, you might be able to tell. It needs a bit of a framework to figure out what type of technology and approach will meet your instructional requirements, your performance requirements. So I have an oversimplified learning model or performance model. So if you're trying to learn anything, it's a simple technique. You got to build some awareness, this is down the left, have a chance to practice it if it's a skill, apply it on the job, think through it, and apply it on the job. A very simple model. Then you can overlay this with what's the level of knowledge or skill that you need? What are you after? On the bottom left, skills or knowledge development, is it you just need to know about something, a new policy, for example? Or do you actually need to start acting differently? And that's where leadership development comes in. So if you're trying to do leadership development with only e-learning, is that going to work, folks? Is e-learning alone going to get behavior change? No. Maybe in space eventually, but in the short term, no. But technology can play a great supporting role, and I want to show you guys how. So there's another way of thinking of this, oversimplifying my oversimplistic model, is just different types of content requirements around knowing something, being able to do something, so skills, or be different, behavioral change. So know, do, be. And we can go a little deeper on this philosophically. For deep philosophy, I look to t-shirts. And in this case, we have Socrates, Plato, and my favorite, Sinatra, the American in the bunch. Doobie doobie doo. Don't wait, it gets better. Anyway, let's get back serious here. So I've overlaid on that QA's learning nomenclature around different types of learning, engaging, learning, embedding, and owning. And then what we can do with that is then map that to just some sample technology approaches. So that's probably impossible to read, but I would say, we'll say to you on the left with Engage, think about this as a sweet spot for mobile, around infomercials and podcasts, where you're actually learning the skill, and lots of ways to do that in the classroom, e-learning, simulations, virtual learning, virtual world-based learning, embedding it, applying it on the job, and I'm going to show you examples of all this. Don't feel like you have to write all this down. Now, performance support, virtual world practice, again, this is applying it on the job and having a practice environment. Knowledge nuggets, these could be little video snippets. So different, you're seeing here that depending on what I want people to know something or do something, I'm using different technology approaches and they can work together. So finally, how does technology support behavior change? Online communities, social learning, social media for learning, blogs, just connecting experts are some of the different technology approaches that can be used. So now I'm going to show you examples across this portfolio. How's that sound? All right? Bring it on, they say. So I've already talked about our mobile app that helps set the stage for a public course. Let me show you a couple client projects here in this space. Again, we're building engaging hearts and minds before they come onto a course, if there is a course. We're using innovative techniques to just get the message out, whether it's mobile or not. So in this first example, this one was done for GSK. And it's a new change that they need to know globally, so it's building that stage for them.
Welcome to this short e-learning module on the Global Harmonization System, or GHS for short. In this module, you'll learn about the 4 new elements that have been added to safety data sheets and labels, and how to apply the changes. There'll also be 2 opportunities to check your understanding of the key elements. You can pause the
So for them, this looks very different than the things
Let's
that they're
start by
used to.
looking at what changes will be made to safety data sheets and labels. Safety data sheets will have 4 new elements in section 2. The same 4 elements will be on labels. These are hazard phrases.
So you get the idea. It looks a little bit different. It's short, it's sweet, it gets to the point, and lays that foundation that they can build on with a variety of other activities. So I really like this one. And this one has scoring tracking, so it's going to take a minute to close down there. What it's saving to is quite interesting here. Who knows? That's why it's looking for the LMS. All right, let's just get rid of that. And that. And let me show you another example. And so in this case, this is for an office rollout. And you'll see the client here. And so this lays as a communications message that was sent via the desktop, and then we supported it with mobile apps that were more around, here's the new changes and what was coming. And I can't remember, this one has a little bit of audio. Or does it? But anyway, just a nice flashy way of laying the stage. Don't worry, equipment's changing, it's going to be okay, and it's going to change for the better. So we're doing a lot with comms. So of course you can have the classroom training, virtual classroom, video, e-learning. We've got all the learning bits covered. But what we've been missing often is that pre-learning communications. And I think that starts to engage people, helps them, encourage them to not cancel out of the course at the last minute because they don't know really why and what it's all about. So let's close that. And so these are just a couple examples. Again, we have more on our stand to share. Now, getting a message out quick, it used to be video was the most expensive thing that you could do. Now, it's the cheapest. A couple things are changing. The ability to produce it with smartphones or HD little cams, the ability to edit it on your laptop, the ability to stream it, and the ability to play it back. The broadband's there enough to do that now are all changes that make video a really good choice. So what we do is we sync up the video with slides. We use the same platform, have used the same platform as being used for this show. So they're syncing up my talk with my slides now. And that's a quick way to get the message out, and it's mobile enabled. And so we're doing that a ton. This is our head of IT training, and he's given a message to our associates. We have some 300 trainers on staff, but use associates on top of that. So this is a message to them about how important delegate satisfaction is and how we measure it. Couldn't get the message out quicker than shooting him at one of our training centers, editing it the same day, and getting it out the same day. That's a game changer. Another thing is, the e-learning that we've built often is, it's like images and the next button, kind of, and a few bullet points. A lot of it's like that. Well, it doesn't have to be. Just using a bit of 3D animation that's germane to what you're talking about can really help. So in this case, this was about personal IT security and talking about what to worry about in your home, and to introduce that scene as a little piece of animation. It's not rocket science, but when we showed this, built this into the client's project, they loved it and now want us to put that into most of their projects. We're like, I'm not sure it fits here. But it doesn't always fit, but it can really help introduce. So if you think of your induction programs, induction often built out in e-learning, we do a lot of those projects. Just having a 3D visualization of your headquarters or a certain office or something like that can really spice things up. So making the content that you're already doing more appealing can be helpful. So I've been talking a little bit about the knowledge aspect, the building awareness. Let's talk about skill development, knowledge development. So a couple more examples here. So I mentioned you can make your classroom training spicier. Delivery is one way. Using multimedia in the classroom, it's not exactly rocket science or pioneering, but we're doing more and more of that with our public classes, and our clients are asking us to do that too. That means people are getting an interesting, at least in our context, case study. It's delivered consistently in every workshop, and then the small groups can go work it. So here's just a really quick example of what that looks like. And it doesn't have audio in this part because the instructor would be explaining it.
Porcine Aviation plc are an organization that currently operate a small regional airport.
So this is played in the classroom.
And are keen to read
and maybe the trainer wants to talk over it, so we make it really easy
ability
to
to
mute.
exploit. One major consideration, however, is that the airport is...
Oh, and here's the plot. The plot thickens. And so here's just a little piece of case study that we put in there. And let's close that down. Another use of video, because it's so easy to produce video now, we're doing a ton of this for role plays, whether it's internal training or for clients. So this is an example of two of our QA salespeople working together in a role play about how to do a fact-finding sales call. And they used this to have everybody view it before they critiqued it and worked on what would make this better. So this is a 70% correct example, and just shows you how quick we can produce these now. And by we, I mean in the industry, not just us. So I just play the first minute or so. So this is shot in one of our offices, edited the same day. And is the audio working back there? Oh, I muted it here, sorry.
My name is Stephen Soames. I have the pleasure and privilege of being an account manager at QA. I've just been given your name by Mike Jones over at IT, and I wondered if it was a convenient moment to grab a couple of quick minutes this morning.
Let me just check. Yes, I've got a meeting in about half an hour, but you've caught me at a good time.
Well, thank you very much indeed for that, Dawn. I'm not sure if QA is a company that you're overly familiar with.
So you get the idea, and it goes back and forth. And remember, this is 70% right. So think of these two guys that have now put themselves in front of a whole sales team saying, critique us. Well, what we've been doing with our award-winning use of social media for learning, yeah, I was able to plug that in, is being able to build a higher trust organization through the use of constant video sharing. And this is just another example of that. But we apply this and actually use real actors occasionally too. And so it just shows another low-cost way of building dynamic content that can be used part of that blended learning process. The final thing I was going to show here is a 3D performance support where you have procedural training, whether it's medical procedures, equipment training, whatever it might be, even on the consumer side of how to plug in kit. And so this is highly interactive where you actually manipulate the models in real time, and it can test you, and it extends to mobile. And in fact, what this picture here is, as we're demoing on the stand, is mobile augmented reality. So moving beyond instruction, where step by step, how do I do something, to be able to hold up the tablet, look at the piece of equipment, and it'll tell me exactly what to do. What's this part? What's that part? What order do I need to repair them in? Or even just doing checklists and so forth. And so that's a game changer. Well, I've been building mobile augmented reality for quite a few years now. This is the first industrial grade tool that allows you to take instruction and export it actually to mobile augmented reality, which dramatically lowers the cost of doing that. So come by our stand and take a look at that. We have the iPad and the demo. I didn't want to show that live here, just a little fiddly. Continuing on, so far I've been mostly talking about classroom, haven't I? Let's talk about integration with the classroom. Virtual learning for us is no different. This is a blended learning process where if you're going to take a 3-day course, we convert it to 6 3-hour sessions. And in between there, of course, are a lot of different activities. The mobile app, e-learning, discussion groups, pre and post testing, whether it's online or even paper tests, online community access at the end, discussion groups, access to experts, and our e-learning in this case. So whether it's classroom or virtual, we try and think through what we can do. And this is what our clients are asking us to as well to do. So it's not just what happens before the virtual event, then the virtual event. They also want the follow-up, and they want things to do, the action learning in between. And if it's just supported by an online community of PDF exercises, so be it. But those can be engaging and interactive as well. Another thing that I mentioned early on is that you can combine external delegates into your physical classrooms. So we do that all the time at our international house in Tower Hill, where what you're seeing here is guys in, India and Dublin are connecting into this classroom for a client project management course. They were rolling out a new project management software, and here's the team leader with his back to you. There's a webcam in the back of the room. And they're able to work collaboratively across all those time zones. And so they have an instructor, and it became less about instruction and more about collaboration on how we want to actually use the software. And they'll run virtual sessions themselves once they settle out on how they want to be using and managing their projects. What you see here on the left is something we call, it is called the e-beam. It manages to take what you see the instructor whiteboarding and beam that into the WebEx or whatever platform in real time, because otherwise you couldn't see what was being diagrammed unless you had a telescope or something. So that really helps. Now what we're doing with our videos and our extended learning is you can get the PDFs of these as well. So for reference, you get all the diagrams. So even on our classroom classes now, they love the idea that not only are they going to get a video after, but but that video will have these live diagrams with audio, and they'll get the actual PDFs too. So just different ways of really making the learning experience great, whether people are physically there or not, and you can combine these people. Well, mobile learning's hot. A lot of these stands around have been talking about it for quite some time. I've been a pioneer in building mobile learning myself and always said it's not learning that you're trying to put on these devices. You shouldn't be. Anyway, the best use is, again, on that first stage of hearts and minds, getting people engaged, and as reference, I believe. But that's, if you're talking about mobile, when I'm talking about mobile that way, I'm talking about handheld devices, smartphones. Tablets are a game changer. You could call tablets or laptops, for that matter, mobile learning. So I'm going to call it something different. So what I'm talking about here is some unlocked capability, just rapidly evolving around tablets, whether it's the iPad or Android devices. So on the left, this has been available forever, but nobody's using it. You could get WebEx on a smartphone or your tablet, and a lot of clients now are more interested in us running virtual, no matter where their virtual delegates are. So being able to use that for whether it's collaboration, learning, or even role-playing and coaching. So that's free if you're already using one of those platforms. The mobile client is, I mean. On the right, now here we're talking about a different way of engaging people. You can actually, those of you who know me over the years know that I've been a pioneer in the use of virtual worlds, enterprise-grade virtual worlds, all the way back in my Unilever days, to a company that I founded to specialize in that, and here at QA as well, where now us as avatars can interact in a contextually accurate environment. So if we're doctors, we would talk in a doctor-type office. If we're border patrol, we'll, like the middle selection there, we'll work together in that kind of place. Nurses can collaboratively train, and these worlds now are available on tablet devices. And we have a live demo over in our stand there. This bottom left thing we're excited about, but we're just doing R&D on it now, and that is one of the limitations you have of using role play actors. A lot of people like to use they hire actors to come in and do role plays with their delegates. That's really expensive, and you're tied to a physical location. You got to get the people and the location and the delegates all together. What if, and then you only have however many actors you hire is how many roles they play. They all look the same. This software here allows anybody in one of our studios to have motion tracking over them that captures their voice inflection, their face movement, and actually then displays them as any number of characters and does voice modulation so a guy can be a gal or any age or even race. Let me see if I have a demo of that here. Don't have a live clip of that. Come back to the stand for that. And the more that you're doing collaboration is where photo-based avatars come into play. If you're just doing basic role-playing and you even want to be anonymous, that's not so important. But these are rapidly evolving technologies that even creating the avatars now can be done with a camera on the smartphone device, on the smartphone or the tablet. So think of just being unlocked. You don't have to be tethered to a physical location to do highly engaging role play. And that's what this is about. And we're currently working on a project around just simply induction, but bringing all the virtual delegates to the various types of locations and businesses that client has. So contextual learning is where it's at. So in the last few minutes that I have, I do want to talk about the behavioral change, the B aspect. So we have two examples here. One thing, or two or three references here. On the left is one of our tools we call Compass, and what that is it's competency assessment, in this case tied to project management competencies. Now you'd use that before diagnosing what learning you needed, but when you're doing the learning over time, you want to come back and do the assessment, help you reinforce your behaviors, check and manage yourself of assessing where you at and what do you continuously need to do that. Having a tool that continuously assesses your performance will help you apply the new behaviors rather than just taking a learning course. It'll really help you focus on applying it and measuring it. So that's what I mean here by this little computer icon. Here I mentioned we're using videos a lot internally and with client projects as part of that catalyst to get people to practice as we ask people to do a role play to show the new skill. So if it's a sales call, you saw the sales call one. If it's an elevator pitch, they'll do that to camera. whatever it is, we ask people to try and do a fun little role play, whether it's done with a smartphone or whatever, helps act as a catalyst, and it creates a culture of fun. And also might see some tips and tricks from other people. So there's a lot of different value in having that done. Again, I love the low cost things that we can do in that space. And on the right is where I plug the heck out of performance support. What are you doing after whatever this learning process is? So we're partners with Ontuitive for the infrastructure, and I think that if you have this in place, it'll help people apply the new behavioral changes. And why I shared this, that you can learn more from either us or them on that, the bottom right is around how to work differently using the new software. So it's task focused. You might use a little bit of, for organizing a meeting, you use a little bit of Word, a little bit of Outlook, a little bit of SharePoint. So it's task focused. But what that'll do is help you be more efficient and effective on the job. And finally, this is the final plug on our ability to connect senior leaders in online communities, and our people at all levels really, is something that we love to apply for clients as well as our own types of courses. So those key learning points and videos really help us here in transfer. I've been on the learning event, whether it's virtual, face-to-face, or e-learning. These follow-up activities help me apply it immediately, but you get performance fade if you don't have performance support in place. So it's a mindset, as I said earlier, and you need some infrastructure to do that, I believe. I think I've talked enough about that. What I like is that we've set up a platform. We're platform agnostic. We use Cornerstone ourselves and for many client projects, and it allows you to pick and choose what types of media with which kinds of controls that you want. Here's an example of our role playing. And the final thing I'll say is this can all come together for just one program. This is a graduates program that we're pitching. Had a little bit of mobile, a little bit of virtual, a little bit of game-based learning, a little bit of classroom, well, a lot of classroom, 6 weeks in fact. And in the IT part of the classroom, they can connect to a virtual world and have contextual learning followed up with video-based learning and performance support. That's just one project. For leadership development, same kind of thing. A 2-year learning journey that has a lot of pre-work, post-work, multimedia learning, and classroom training. It's making it seamless is what's really important. I'm going to skip over gamification and ask in the few moments that we have left what questions that you have. My contact info is here. Our stand is directly that way if you want to come and talk to me after, as I'm sure I'll be ushered off the stage rather quickly. So what questions do you have in the last few minutes that we have? Well, can I ask for some instant feedback on my soon-to-be patented thumbometer? If we can, everybody hold out the thumbs like this, and I'm going to ask, was it of no value, somewhat value, or a lot of value? We're going to vote on 3. 1, 2, 3. All right. So most thumbs up. Thanks. Thank you for the feedback.